And today, and you've heard me say this before, 85% of the positions that will be available in 2030 do not even exist today. And I can say that because it's January 2024, and the latest research was from July 2023. We don't have new reports yet since then. So just think the flexibility, the imagination, how you transfer your skills into something you truly want to do. It's just, the possibilities are endless. Just be flexible and be imaginative. And if not, we'll figure it out together, you know. Well, if you work with me, obviously.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Limitless Living Show. Chuck Anderson here, and this is the show where we tell stories of personal transformation and overcoming limitations that will help you live a more joyful, more fulfilling life in whatever way that looks like. And, you know, as we go through life, we come across challenges, there's desires, there's things that we want to accomplish in life. How do we do that? And our career and what we do for a living is a big part of that. So today I invited my friend Myriam-Rose Kohn, who is the dream job expert. So if you've ever thought of leveling up in your career, if you've ever thought, maybe I'd like to be doing something else, or just anything else to do with designing the type of career that you want, this is the person that you want to talk to. So Myriam-Rose, thank you so much for being here. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Chuck. Likewise. I'm looking forward to our conversation here.
Yeah, we're going to dive deep in this whole, dream job thing and the career path thing. But, the best place to start, Myriam-Rose, is for you to tell your story. So, what's the story? How did this come to be, and what led you to this point now?
Okay, well, I guess I don't have an entire day, so I'll condense this. Well, it started more than 30 years ago. At the time I was married, and one day my husband came home. 5 p.m. and it's so engraved in my mind, right? 5 p.m. on a Monday afternoon, he comes home and he tells me, okay, I'm moving out tomorrow morning. There's going to be a trial separation, which by the stuff I saw him take, which was everything, I realized that's not a trial separation, except he did not allow me to work while we were married. So how was I going to feed the children? How was I going to pay rent? Because I had nothing. And so I'm just going to make this very brief. I worked my way out of it. I was teaching part-time. I've always loved to teach. And that's important for my story, because now that my children are grown, I can't say I teach my clients, but I educate my clients and I nurture them because I have nobody else to nurture. So there you go. And I got into this because I had to go into a transition, start making a living. And there was no one at the time what I am doing today. Today, I have colleagues who do this type of work as well. But at the time, there was nobody. And I figured, having gone through this career transition, at that time it was already the second time, I decided along the way, when I started my business, which was administrative support services. We did it in 19 languages at the time. And my clients started to come to me and say, well, before, jobs always came to me. Now I need to submit a resume. So I always try to do the best I can for my clients. I say, well, let me figure this out and find out what this entails. And so I got in touch with the Professional Association of Resume Writers at the time. They were the only ones. Today there are 3 organizations and 4. And so I studied and did that and became certified professional resume writer. but the resume only gets your foot in the door. So then I became a certified employment interview professional because the interview is what gets you the position, right? And so I learned the questions my clients needed to pose and how to connect with the interviewer and what to do when the interview derails, how to get it back on track. And that led to the next step with everything to do in careers. I trained as a career coach. And I'm going to tell you in a moment how it gets full circle. And so I could help my clients all along the way, you know, if they had were in the right place, but had a bad boss, how to move ahead, anything you can imagine with careers. And then I became a certified job search strategist because when you look for a position, I don't want to do a job. It's like, oh, I got to go to work. No, we don't want to do that. It's more than filling out an application and waiting to be called. I mean, you can wait till doomsday this way, right? So I teach my clients, or I educate my clients on how to get behind the curtains so they can move to the top of the list. So all this along the way, I've had clients who were miserable, but miserable in their work and would not leave it for fear of losing the paycheck. So you know what happens. They're miserable. They go home miserable. Their whole life is they get rid of their partners instead of doing it the other way around. So this is to tell you my story now that I know about this and I know how to do career transitions, having gone through it myself, struggling through. I know where the fears lie, where the doubts lie. When they work with me, they don't have to go through that because they have someone to call on. And you know, I'm with my clients till they reach their goals, and usually we go beyond that. But the thing is, the journey is that people who are, for me, having learned everything with careers along the way, well, I can't say everything because it's changing all the time, right? Every time you have something new coming up, which is why I belong to several organizations where I get briefings every month as to what is changing in what field and what to look for and how to handle the technology with it. So all that together with how to effect a career transition, or if you want to stay in the same field, you're right, but just move ahead. I can assist my clients because I've been through it all myself. So, you know, it's just not book work. I take great care with my clients. I have their best interest at heart. You know, it's not like these people are resume rules that charge them $5,000 and they have no personal assistance. And yeah, it's not like that when you work with a one-on-one in person. Or I do have a group coaching program. You know, it's a 6-week program if people are interested. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Yes, and
Okay,
then
good.
some. And well, I want to ask you a little bit more about your programs here in a little bit, but I love your origin story. And you know, one of the things that just fascinates me about the people that I interview on this show is that almost all coaches that I've met starts with their own transformation and your own necessity and your own need for this.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing leads to another, and now you're someone who helps other people. And my audience has heard me say this so many times. I mean, I just think that it's so cool. We all have these stories of, you know, our transformation, overcoming pain, healing, and overcoming these limitations. And then we go, I'm grateful for this. I'm going to go help others to do this. So, you know, did you find that it was just like a natural progression that led you to this work, or was there an aha moment that said, you know what, I really want to coach people who are going through their career transitions?
I was a teacher. I was a professor at the university for more than 20 years. And this is kind of the second one. You know, the quality of students that started to come in, at least were I told, and the pressure we got from administration as to how we had to show progress in the students who didn't want to learn in the first place. It got to be so toxic that I go, no, I want to help people who want to be helped. And so I went into what I do now. Just talking about the toxicity, people, I was saying people were afraid of losing the paycheck, so they don't move, but they don't realize how the environment affects them. I can tell you, for me, just stopping teaching, which I love, which is why I educate people.
Mm-hmm.
Took 2 months, no medication, nothing. My blood pressure went from 173 down to 119. But I think just stopping all this pressure and toxicity around me, and I'm sure other people are having it too, and they don't realize how it affects their health. And so I went to do this because now I'm dealing with adults when they come to me. Obviously, they want to change or they wouldn't talk with me in the first place, right? So for me, it's more fulfilling, especially when you see people's faces just, what is a flower to bloom? It comes out like this and they see possibilities, a way out, a light at the end of the, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's the most rewarding thing because I help people out of their misery. If you get paid for work you enjoy doing, your whole life changes. That's why I say it leads to more joyous and harmonious life. You have fewer headaches, lower blood pressure. I can attest to that. And that means fewer diseases, and when you go home happy, well, even at work, people around you are happier because you spread the joy, right? And when you go home, you have a happier family life. If you have a family or just a partner, it doesn't matter. And then it ripples out, right? Your whole life changes when you do what you enjoy doing. And I'm sure you can attest to that, Chuck, from what you've told me.
My whole career, I started off in an engineering career, and of course, you're always trying to get to the next level. Oh, I want that position, or I want this position, and then I tried to transition into sales because I saw that they would hold parties for salespeople when they had a good day, and with an engineer, you were just expected to have a good day. When you had a bad day, they would yell at you. But salespeople always got the party, so I transitioned into sales, and then eventually became a director of marketing and a chief marketing officer. And I never worked as hard. I always aspired to be in the senior management and then into the C-suite, and I hated every minute of it. It's almost like you feel like you're supposed to aspire to this level or that level, but you know what? I was much happier when I wasn't in that job, and now being self-employed for so many years, that's where I found my ultimate happiness. But it was like if I had dialed back from the moment where I chose to go for the director of marketing, if I had just stayed where I was, that would have been my dream job at that moment. I would have done it forever. And so, I think, for me, it was part of it is knowing when to stop going for the next level. Because like you said, if you get yourself in a toxic situation, you don't want to have to stay there because it just has a ripple effect through everything. So, what are you hearing in terms of the people who come into your world? Like, what's the struggle? What's the, I mean, there's always going to be two sides. There's the struggle and the frustration they're having when it comes to their career, but then there's also their aspirations and what they want to go to. But let's start with the struggle. What are you hearing from people? What are they struggling with when it comes to their career?
Well, a lot of people feel that, especially with the chat GPTs overrunning everything, right? A lot of people fear it's going to take over their job. They feel that there are a lot of layoffs, people who got used from working home, really don't want to go back to the office, but they're forced to, for some people. Well, certain jobs demanded, right, that you're in a team, and it's hard to talk with everybody just to get everybody on Zoom at the same time. Whereas if in the office you have the water cooler and there you go. But I think the overwhelming emotion I see in all my clients is the fear of the unknown, of what's coming down, fear of the unknown. And so we can combat that somewhat because, number one, you're not as fearful if you do what you truly love. An example, not all of us like to be enough. Some of us like to work with our hands, create things. So you don't make as much money, but your life is so much better. So who says you can't do that? Because your parents said you couldn't, because your partner said you couldn't. It's your life. And today, and you've heard me say this before, 85% of the positions that will be available in 2030 do not even exist today. And I can say that because it's January 2024 and the latest research was from July 2023. We don't have new reports yet since then. So just think the flexibility, the imagination, how you transfer your skills into something you truly want to do. It's just, the possibilities are endless. Just be flexible and be imaginative. And if not, we'll figure it out together, Well, if you work with me, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good, that kind of leads me to my next question is, if someone's looking to make a change, or maybe they're not enjoying what they're doing, or they would like to make a change, like you said, it's not always going for the money. It's you do it for the enjoyment. And that's going to have so many different effects in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What's your recommendations? Like, what do you think are some of the steps that people should take when they're either making the decisions on what they're going to do with their career, and
Mm-hmm.
and then that maybe that even leads to what help they're going to need as well. So, what should they be doing?
Well, they need to, if they're not sure what they want to do, if there's something they always wanted to do and never got to do it, okay, it's one thing. We can get going right away. But if they're not sure, then we have to do career exploration first to determine if they're going to be self-employed or work for somebody else. But the very first question, no matter what, is, what did you want to do when you were growing up? Well, what did you want to be? Because that's usually your answer. The answer always lies within the client. It's just a question of unearthing it, So that's what they should be doing, is first think about what do they really want to do? What would make them happy? So,
I hear you say that, and it just makes me think of a childhood experience of mine. I mean, one of the things I tell people all the time, I love podcasting. What we're doing right now, interviewing for a podcast, I could do this all day long. I just love asking questions and getting to know people. And when I was young, my grandfather had a cassette recorder with a little microphone, and my cousin and we hosted a radio show. We pretended that we were
and there
hosting
you
a
go.
radio show with the microphone, and here I am, right, creating recordings, interviewing people. I've got the microphone right here. I'm doing exactly what I was doing when I was a little kid. So when you said that, I had this instant flash. Of course, I love technical things, and engineering was always my dream. But sometimes you don't know what you're going to get into until you get into it.
That's right.
I didn't love the some of the toxic expectations that we had, but I love this, right? And so I love that you shared that. It's like, so should people be kind of like looking at, like, I love it because you said, what did you always want to be when you were a kid, right? And I think sometimes we give up on that. And so how often do you find that connects the dots between that, what their dream was, and then what their next moves are going to be?
All right, so I have to deviate a little bit because when they were growing up, their parents said, no, you should do this or you should do that. Some of them anyway, right? I'm not saying every single parent. So they went a different track. And then they were trying to please their partners, their spouses, whatever. So the first thing is go deep down, remember what made you happy, what you wanted to do. And if it's what's flying airplanes, well, some things are going to take a little longer than 60 days. 2 or 3 years, maybe longer. Well, I say that, but there are certain things you can do, at least work in the field that you want to work in. Excuse me. And along with your dream, you have, at this point in your life, have a strong belief in yourself. Don't let people tell you stories and you believe them. Believe in yourself, number one, and that you can do it. Well, number one is your dream. Number two is you believe in yourself, and you put those two together. I just had a client who came to me last November who wanted to be an air trafficker. Well, I don't remember that. I think it's 4 to 6 years training, but they have such a shortage right now, of air traffickers that they change the requirements. They make you do 6 months underground theory, and then they right away put you in the tower, and you learn as you go along. I mean, they're not going to have you land a jumbo jet from day one, right? That's not going to happen.
They're probably not putting you at Chicago O'Hare on your or
No.
any of the what is it, JFK in New York. You're probably not going there on your first day.
No, you're not. But you start to work in the tower, and so they change the training. But think about the possibilities. Instead of 4 or 6 years, he can do it now within 1 year, and he can start taking the classes while he's still doing this work he doesn't care for anymore, so he doesn't lose the paycheck. And in 6 months, I mean, think about that. 6 months now, I'm going to be in the world I want to be in. You cannot be a surgeon overnight, or an architect, or an engineer, right? But there are things you can do in that. If I may use another example of one of my clients, he wanted to be a motorcycle race driver. I finally got it out. I couldn't get it out this morning. But when he came to me, he was a project manager. He was always working indoors in some kind of a company. And I go, what are you doing there? I mean, he didn't even realize it. You understand? So what we ended up doing, long story short, when he came to me, he was already married to small children, so his wife wasn't going to let him race motorcycles, right? But doing what he was doing before with those skills, we found him a position in the aftermarket of the motorcycle racing world. So he was working at the racing track where he wanted to be, and an environmentalist he loved. And I'm sure he got to race some of those motorcycles once in a while. No one needed to know. But you know what I mean? I mean, just put him in the world he wants to be in. It's not always the job itself, but your environment. I mean, he was so happy after that. And he didn't have to give up a salary of any kind or anything else, just change the environment and do what you truly love. So that's one way.
Yeah, and that's a story right there. Now I understand why they call you the dream job expert. Well, I understood it before because you and I have talked several times, but
yes,
but I love that example because it's like, here's your dream. Okay, you might not be a motorcycle racer because I don't think my wife would let me do it either, but you get to be in the world that you love. And so being exposed to, that industry. And that's not something that we often think about. And so what I just heard you say is that you helped him to connect the dots between what his dream was and how he could use his skills in a new way and be in his dream industry, right?
Right. So, and I've done this several times. I had an administrative assistant. She wanted to be a scuba diver instructor, but could not afford the classes. Well, that was not exactly... didn't require a lot of imagination. You're an administrative assistant here, go be an administrative assistant in a scuba diving school, which she did. And because people got to know her because she was working there and she got to take the classes at a reduced fee, and it took her 2 years and she got her certificate. And, this is why I say it's not overnight. These things don't happen overnight, but you can start working toward it. And the amount of time it takes to working toward it is less than being miserable forever and ever in a job you don't care to be in, right? So there are different ways of making your dream come true, right? If you want to be an architect, well, that requires some studying and learning and getting a diploma of some sort. But you can start working in an architectural firm and learn as you go along, because I'm not saying you can't take the class. You have to take the classes and get your diploma to be a full partner, or, at least a member of the team, but they can train you. You can start as an intern, and then from there you can start doing jobs with. You learn on the job is just as important, valuable experience as what you have to learn from the books to get your diploma, right?
Yeah, that reminds me of how I got into engineering, because
So,
I started very young and I got a job on an assembly line, assembling electronic circuit boards. It was so boring, but it was a job. It was one of my my friends had all gone to university, and I'm like, I want to work first, and so then I became a lead worker, and then I became a supervisor, and then the engineering department took me under their wing and mentored me, and I got mentored into engineering. And then eventually my school paid for me by the company, where my friends went a different path. They went directly into university for 4 or 5 years or whatever it was to get their engineering degrees. And so that I love what you said about just get into the industry, because that, looking back, that's exactly what happened to me. Right. So
good. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So there's all of the ways that you can help people. I know we've talked about LinkedIn before. We've talked about resumes. I think today I really love what we focus on in this conversation, because it's really about that career transition and getting into the dream job, which is goes way beyond what do you put on LinkedIn. It goes way beyond what you put on a resume, and the interview skills. Those are all important. But I think the bigger picture, and I think what I heard you really say that you help people with here, is to connect the dots. Like, what is your dream and your dream career, and how can we find a way to get you into it? And so if there's ever a reason for someone listening in right now to connect with you, because you're going to have those ideas. So I know that beneath this video, so if you're watching this on video, everyone, we have a link beneath this video. If you would like to connect with Myriam-Rose, we have all of her information there. She has webinars, she has courses, she has programs, and you can even book a call to talk to her one-on-one. We have all of those links available to you. That's just beneath this video. If you're listening to this on podcast, just go into the player on your phone, and all of her links are there as well. Time well spent. I get the honor of spending weekly time with Myriam-Rose. You do not, but I highly recommend that you do, because she is amazing. And I know we just scratched the surface of how amazing you are. So I highly recommend that you do that. Now, before we end this episode, I just want to ask, because this show, obviously, it's all about transformation. We've talked a lot about transformation. Career is a big part of that. Happiness is a big part of that. Joy, and just the ripple effect that all those good feelings happen. And so many times we're doing what we do, not because of our own pursuits, because of our relationships and, our families and all of that. So I always ask this of all my guests, because so much of the transformation and the learning that I get is from books. So I always just ask you if there was one book that really stands out to you, maybe it's been helpful to you or helpful to your clients, and is a must-read recommendation for you. Do you have a book like that you would recommend?
I do. I'm going to share with you. It's here. Can you see it? Powered by me.
Yes, Powered by Me. Yes, I see that.
Yes, and the author is Neha Sanwan. She's not only a physician, she was also an engineer. She's both. But it's from burned out to fully charged at work and in life, because so many people are burned out today. We talk about nurses, but the doctors too, and attorneys, and there are some who are disillusioned with the legal field. I mean, people all over. and then, like I said before, there's no need to be miserable or burned out or out of work, or if you have to return to work because of circumstances in your life. People who want to downsize, sometimes it's burnout, sometimes it's not. But there are some very good pointers in this book. I'm just finishing reading it about how to approach certain things from a different standpoint. And I think being a doctor, she says, medication is not the answer. You can take all the drugs you want. It's not going to make the problems go away. So don't take the drugs because it alters your body and you want to be sound of mind and body, right? But she also has a lot of ways on how to approach things, how to discuss it, different ways of posing questions so people don't feel on the defensive and you can move forward, in the relationship.
Wow,
Whether
that
it's at
sounds like a
home or in
very,
business.
very powerful read. Well, we'll put the link to that book beneath this video and in the podcast as well. Go check it out. I think it's a great recommendation. And like I said, I ask all my guests for a book recommendation. No one's recommended that one before, so you're the
Oh,
first. And I'm always looking for new books to read. So maybe I put that on my must read list or my next read list as well. So
okay.
thank you for that.
Oh,
And
you're welcome.
look, this has been amazing. I sincerely hope for our listeners that this has been time well spent for you. And look, you do not have to accept the situation that you are in. And if you are not happy with your current career, your current job, where that's going, changes can be made. And it's not always getting to the next level, as we talked about. Sometimes it's a lateral move. Sometimes it's just a completely different move. I love what you said, Myriam-Rose, about connecting to your dream, your childhood dream, because it is possible. We're always told, we're often told by people that it's not possible. Be realistic or go do this. You'll make a lot of money if you do this thing or do that thing. And I know that's what happened to me. I don't know that I would have been a podcast host in 1988. Podcasting really wasn't a thing yet,
No,
but I'm so grateful that it is today. And so yeah, I really got a lot out of this interview. So to so Myriam-Rose, I want to ask you before we sign off this episode, if you had one final piece of advice or words of wisdom to leave our audience with, what would you say to them?
if you're not happy where you're at, you don't have to stay there. Today has changed so much. And the stuff our parents told us when we were growing up, we don't live in the same culture anymore. The life environment has changed completely. So now is your time. If you believe in yourself, you can do it. If you work with a career transition coach, they'll stand by you and they'll get you to the next point. You don't have to do it alone. So don't be miserable. Don't be out of work. Do what you love to do. And like I said, even if it's working with your hands, you could be doing woodworking. You could be a painter. You could be whatever you want. And it doesn't have to be on a big scale, because if you do what you like to do, it doesn't matter. Money will come automatically because you'll become known and you'll become an expert in your field. People eventually will seek you out, right? So there you go.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Those are beautiful words to end this by. And I highly recommend to our audience, if you haven't already, go connect with Myriam-Rose, and all her information is beneath this video in the podcast show notes. And make sure that this has been time well spent for you. I want you to take one action step, something that you heard here from, heard us talk about here today. And if you don't know what it is, if you don't know what your next step is, connect with Myriam-Rose. She's going to help you think in a way that you might not already be thinking. And one of the things that she helps you to do is get that clarity and find the thing that brings you joy in life. And that's what this show is all about. It's about stories of transformation and overcoming limitations so you can live a happier, more joyful, more fulfilling life now. Not later, but now. You can start making the changes now. So thank you to Myriam-Rose as our guest. Thank you for listening in. And in the meantime, this has been the Limitless Living Show with Chuck Anderson, and we'll see you on the next one, everybody. Thank you.